Hello, I'm Pete George, and we are live on Game Changers with Vicki Abelson. Our guest tonight is Jason Butler Harner. Woo!
Yay! You did that very well, Pete. You got the name exactly right. Hi, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
We've been trying to do this for a long time.
It's true. It is like the fourth time is the charm.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, I don't know if the first time you had a conflict, and then the next time.
Oh yeah. Then
Esai Morales said
yeah.
that he could do it, and he could only do it that week, and you guys had worked. Did you guys work on Ozark together?
No, we didn't have any scenes together.
You didn't have any scenes
No.
together. But you were very gracious about it. And then it's been like 3 times since that you've...
It's true. Been busy and then went to go visit my dad, and so... But now we're here.
But you're a working actor, and that means that you actually work. So that's a really good thing.
It is a good thing.
It is a good thing. So before we go back in time, tell us about what you've got coming up. It's exciting.
So I have a new show called Next.
And it has... Now, what is it with the letters? It goes...
The X is enlarged.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's weird. It's one of those things.
It's about artificial intelligence taking over the world.
And who are you?
I am. So there's 2 brothers. John Slattery is our hero,
Great.
and I'm his younger brother. And we have a company, and he's created a device that's like Alexa, but it's called Next. It's called Eliza, and basically it's a computer program that is taking over the world. And it'll be on Fox.
So
it'll be Fox, and then there's a whole team of amazing actors who are playing like this FBI team that are trying to figure it out.
So you've been FBI before.
I've been FBI, but I'm not FBI in
You're
this.
not
I'm like a tech guy.
So do you have to like know tech things to do this?
No, because I'm like the money part of the tech, and John is the brains of the tech.
So are you like the dumb side? You're not dumb.
He's not dumb, but John is like the savant.
John is the savant.
Yeah.
So and
haircut.
do you have like so now we can
now I guess like I really need a haircut.
so hi Lorraine, hi Pete. Pete watches and listens so that he can see. Yeah.
Hi Pete.
So,
hi Lorraine.
So yeah, and then we'll see. If anybody has any questions for Jason, it's too early to say that because people aren't on yet. But they'll be slowly joining us.
Okay.
Okay. So you going to Chicago?
We are filming in Chicago
in the winter time.
In the winter.
Which is.
But the show takes place in Portland, or it starts off in Portland, and then I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I don't know. I literally know nothing other than the pilot.
And how many episodes are you shooting?
I believe 10.
Okay. So, but it's Fox.
It's Fox. I did a show on Fox before called Alcatraz, so it's nice to go back with Geri Jewel. Yes. Played my sister.
Hi, Geri.
Geri. She played my sister, and I forget. We shot in this beautiful mansion until like 3 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
I remember I made a joke. I made some joke to her. Like it was late. Whatever.
Did it have to do with the prison?
No, it made a joke. We it was a dumb joke. We'd been sitting next to each other all night, and she and I were trying to create stories about each other, and I made a joke about my left foot. Where I was like, "Come on!" We were like going home. It was like 3:30 in the morning. I was like, "Get in this wheelbarrow, and I'm gonna wheel you out of here." And she just started laughing, like hitting me, saying, "You're so bad. You're so bad." Anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I got away with it then. I wouldn't get away with it now.
As so many things.
It's true, right?
So many things. So, okay, so Jason, I've known you for a pretty long time, but I don't know a lot about how your career happened. I've seen you in many things, though.
Yeah.
I saw you on Broadway last year. That was
a good time, right?
That was Bernhardt Hamlet. That was very exciting.
It's coming. The play is going to be done at the Geffen in the spring this season. Different director, different cast, but the same play.
And do you know, is anybody doing it that we might know?
No, not that I know of. They haven't announced it yet. I wonder who's going to be. I did it with Janet McTeer, and we were lovers. She played Sarah Bernhardt. I played Edmond Rostand, who wrote Cyrano de Bergerac, and they were lovers and all this stuff. So I don't know who's going to do it here.
Juicy love scene in that. I've seen Jason naked on stage.
I wasn't naked in that one.
With Haley Pfeiffer.
Oh, Hallie, yeah.
Hallie.
She was naked. I wasn't naked.
You were pretty. You were sitting up on we were right in front of you, and if not for her head,
no,
you were.
This is what's so interesting. I was performing cunnilingus on her.
Oh, you
She
were
was in the sink.
Look how I remember it.
She opened her legs, and my head was blocking her. So this is interesting about
now,
you.
And I think of it as you being on the sink and her going down on you.
She was in the sink telling me a sad story, and then also,
Okay. The point is that Jason is always doing weird sex. Ozark, intense sex scene in Ozark.
That's so true. I had two sex scenes. One where I get a blowjob from a hustler.
Pretty intense. And
but it wasn't intense because of the blowjob. It was intense because he was a little crazy.
Yeah.
And then I had like a love scene with a guy. On Ozark, I played Agent Roy Petty, and he was an FBI guy who was also gay, and I fell in love with the guy, and then he died, but not my fault. He didn't die because of me. He died because of Julia Garner, not me. Everybody thinks I killed him.
Well, yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, I forced his hand, and then she fried him.
All right, that's a spoiler. If you haven't seen
it, dropped a year. The second season dropped a year ago, so I think we're out of the term limits.
Although with Netflix now, people I binge things that are. Don't you binge things that are not timely, but you go back and binge something? What are you binging these days? Do you have anything good you're binging?
I mean, I recently watched all of Years and Years on HBO. It's the Emma Thompson. Rory, what's his name? And it's about, it's called Years and Years, 6 episodes. I also watched all of Euphoria.
How was that?
It was good. It was very well acted, very well done, very well written, and I mean, the acting was really pretty great. I get nervous about things that are that may inadvertently be glamorizing drug use. So that was my question throughout. Obviously, it's bad, and you see bad things happen to people.
Ozark certainly did not do that.
No, Ozark is a how to launder money.
How to launder money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when he was putting it behind the walls. So and Ray Donovan, another incredible villain there.
He wasn't a villain.
Wait a minute.
This is what's so funny.
Wait a minute.
Ray Donovan. I was married to Katie Holmes and had been a family friend for her whole life. And then what was revealed was that Ian McShane, who was the villain against Liev, Ian, I was like a lover of Ian McShane, and he killed me because he didn't want to out himself. No, wait, I got hit with the boat at a fireplace.
There's something with a swimming pool.
When you were naked in that one, right?
No. There was no love scenes. There were no love scenes in the Ray Donovan or in Scandal or
Homeland. I could have sworn you had a scene
Homelander.
with John Voight at a swimming pool.
No.
Do we have the right guess?
Somebody else.
This is
Somebody else.
This is so bad. My memory is so
I did not
scary.
do anything.
You did nothing by a swimming pool. Hi,
anything
Penny. All right, so let's go back because
Okay.
I don't know about your humble beginnings. So you were telling Pete and I wasn't listening. So I know I purposely wasn't. Hi, Pete.
Hey.
Pete George back there.
I'm back here.
Pete was in Shawshank Redemption years ago, right? So we just went back for the 25th anniversary, and there was
What'd
this
they
whole
do?
big
They had almost 30,000 people at the prison. Frank Darabont, director, was there. Almost all the lead actors, except for Morgan and Tim, because they were shooting. But it was this monster weekend of VIP events, thousands of people. It was a moving weekend, and even they all said, the lead actors said, this changed our life this weekend.
Wow.
So I have tons of pictures.
That's
too.
so moving.
Yeah, it was great.
Is that guy who was the warden?
He was there.
He was there?
Yeah, he was there. And by the way, I was naked in the shower next to Tim Robbins.
So there you go.
Not this weekend, but in the film.
Tim Robbins I did a pilot for him. He directed that didn't go for Showtime a few years ago.
How was that?
It was fun because I had met Susan before, and then it was really fun to meet him.
Yeah.
And then he directed, and it was about 3 brothers. It was me, Josh Lucas, and Tim Blake Nelson were brothers, which is, if you look at Google us all and look next to each other, and you don't really look like brothers. But it was fun. My storyline was I was like the good son. It was like a wealthy family. It was interesting. It was about pharmaceutical industry. We could have been the what's their name, the Sulkins or whatever. With the we could have been them.
I'm looking like we're off center.
Are we?
Yeah. So
well, you're straddling me.
So
now I'm having a memory about
Yeah.
you.
So,
Now, how many times have I seen you?
Get us in the center. Yeah, my picture's. Oh, wait. That's not allowed. Okay, but CC, we're still kind of off.
Yeah.
Come in. Oh yeah.
Pete, you're not.
I think I should go right, and you should come left. Yeah, because look.
Oh wait, I'm going. Oh,
No, you should come towards me.
That's right.
No, you should come to me.
That's what I was doing.
You want to start over?
No, because now look at where the pictures are.
No, but look we can go over
Look
here.
it.
The pictures are centered. They
Look
can't
at
move.
Come here. Come here.
You are wrong.
Listen.
That's good right there.
You want to be, but your arm is off.
Wow.
You need a crew.
We need a crew. Okay, because it's going to bother me until we get this right. There's Rick Smokey. Okay, I want to say something.
Do you want to have do you want to see? I just want to see. Do you want to see the wall over this shoulder, or no?
Yes, I don't.
So
like
come
the
closer
fact.
to me. Trust me.
Keep
coming.
There it is.
See? The other way.
That's it.
Okay, that's it.
That's
No.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna.
We're
See
still.
what? Here you go.
It looks good to me.
You're hilarious.
Okay, so Rick Smokey. I want to talk about Rick Smokey.
Okay.
Okay, so we did that.
I saw these in the bathroom and I was intrigued.
We did that little PSA for
the veterans.
For the veterans.
Yeah.
In fact, this is from Women Who Write, and when you're back from Chicago, I would love you to do one. We had one yesterday. Linney Kazan.
Yeah.
So it's and so.
Who made these?
So Rick Smokey made these of Quick Impressions in Chicago. Oh,
Rick Smokey made these. Rick.
Jason is going to Chicago and he's going to be there till February. Rick is going to hook you up.
And the holidays are coming up. And I want. You remember those cubes when we were? Well, when I was a kid.
I'm an older kid.
When they had the photos and you could the cubes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Those were like plastic.
Bring those back. How come that's not gone back to Urban Outfitters as a?
Now Rick can make it for you on these, and you put the little tissue box inside. And so Rick Smokey, Quick Impressions in Chicago, he is like the most philanthropic, most wonderful guy. He does all this stuff for veterans.
Wow.
He also, if you need anything printed, he will so take care of you.
Wow.
But he'll also he knows all the music that's happening in Chicago and all that kind of stuff and all the restaurants and
good.
where you want to go.
I've only gone for I recorded on a series that's out there called Betrayal.
Oh yeah.
But so I only know it a little bit. And I did a play in New York of our town I took over, and it was based in Chicago. It was from a Chicago company, so I have a lot of Chicago actor friends that
nice.
either moved there, stayed there.
So you'll be connected.
A little bit.
So
but I don't know the city so well. So Rick Smokey.
Rick is coming, and
show me around.
He made my bookmarks. He made my cards.
Wow.
He's wonderful. Rick is wonderful. And then also my hairdresser. I have to give Nicole a shout. So you see my hairspray?
Fuck off.
Yes, it's called Fuck Off. Nicole Venables of the Ruby Begonia Salon, and she can make you blonde like me or not. But she's pretty wonderful.
But how does she do this?
I want
to know the story of those.
So
I've known you for all this long, but I don't know anything about that story.
Craig, who is my stylist, who is the head wardrobe. He is the stylist. No, he gets mad at me. He is the costume designer of Man with a Plan. Okay. And Nicole, my hairdresser.
The designer?
Yes, he is now the head designer.
Okay.
And Nicole Venables, my hairdresser, is the hairdresser on Man with a Plan, which is Matt LeBlanc.
Wow.
And so they're on that show. So anyway, Craig got me the feathers maybe almost 10 years ago because Steven Tyler was sporting feathers in those days.
My friend Aaron Keeney was just at the concert with Steven Tyler in the front row. And there's video, I'll show it to you on Facebook, where in slow-mo where he comes out and he's like... and he gets this close to her.
Really?
Screen. Yeah, she was dying. She was very happy.
I bet she was. Was he sober at the time? He's sober.
It was just last night or the night before last or something.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, that's thrilling to be the person that they pick out.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
She liked it.
Vicki, do you have a cold?
Oh.
Well, do I sound nasal?
How are you two doing?
Rick. Oh, Rick saying thank you for doing the PSA.
Oh, I'm very happy to.
So, anyway, so Rick, you're going to take care of Jason because he's coming to Chicago. Yeah, okay, you'll do that. So Jason, where'd you grow up? Because I don't know about this.
So I was born in a small town. I was born in Elmira, New York.
Elmira, where's that?
It's near the Pennsylvania border.
Okay.
And it's like Mark Twain country. There's a prison there that you see, a Civil War prison, Elmira College. So it's a big Mark Twain, Watkins Glen, Cornell.
I went to Watkins Glen.
Corning is there. And so then about 45 minutes to an hour away is Ithaca, where I have a lot of relatives.
So you grew up in cold. So cold, you're not new to cold.
When I was 5, we moved to Virginia, and I was raised in Virginia, Northern Virginia, and spent all those years moving around Northern Virginia a lot. And then I lived in New York City for 23 years, and I've lived in LA for about 6.
Okay, so what was the first thing? Did you want to be an actor right from the get-go? How did that start for you? Wait, what did you want to be before you wanted to be an actor?
I didn't know, actually. I didn't know. I thought I was gonna. I went to when I was in high school. I did drama in high school. I did musicals in high school. I couldn't. I couldn't do the plays. I didn't do my first play. The first when I moved into high school, we did these kind of plays, but they weren't. They had music and like.
We did these kind of.
They
plays.
weren't like. It was like called like the. What was the one? They were like, they would make these plays for 7th and 8th grade, but they're like specifically for them, unique for it. Like it's not
a real play.
It's a real play, but it's not like The Crucible. It's not like I didn't do The Crucible.
Okay.
But they did when I went to high school, they did Ordinary People.
Oh,
and
that's intense.
Yeah, we had a cool program
in Alexandria.
At T.C. Williams. Remember the Titans, and so they did it, but I wanted to play Conrad, but the teacher, Jerry Fillmore, was afraid that I would kill myself if I played the suicidal Conrad. And then, anyway, so then I did the musicals. I did like Peter Pan. I played Michael. That's a funny story. And then
let's hear the funny story while
we did Peter Pan. Yeah. We flew in 1987.
Wait.
We flew in high school. We actually flew.
In high school?
Yeah, before all of the craze that is the high school drama programs. So we flew, but for insurance reasons, the parents had to fly us. So I was like 5. The parents had to, yeah. So my mom is like 5 foot and like 95 pounds wet at the time, and I was like 5'4" and 165, 170.
Right.
So I was a big boy, and my mom had decided that it would be smart to wrap the rope around her arm. And instead, when I jumped off or stepped off, I started flying her because I obviously weighed more than she did. Like, nobody thought about it. And then John's dad, the actor Alex who played John, his dad had to reach over and pull her down. And then I like shot up and we're doing that. It was like a whole thing. And I like looked into the wings and was mad. Like, I was like... Michael's, I don't know if you remember, but in order to fly in Peter Pan, you have to think lovely thoughts.
Yes, you have ice cream.
Right, exactly. Ice cream, Christmas, I flew. Yeah.
I can't believe they flew you in high school.
Yeah, we were covered in bruises because there was like, it was Foy, but it wasn't Foy. I think that's the name of the company. One of my closest friends, years later when we met, he was raised in Southern Virginia, and he did it at Mill Mountain, but the Michael had a Southern accent, so he would always say, "Flan, look at me, I'm flan," and they kept trying to teach this kid to say "flying," but he'd just say "flan," and then while they're singing, "I'm flying," you know that song?
Yes, I know that song.
I'm flan. So anyway.
Yeah, I guess that kind of changes things.
A little bit.
A little bit. So did you study voice? Did you study acting? What'd you do?
I took like drama classes, and but really, so there was a drama teacher, and then also when we did plays, we did a musical in the spring and a play and a thing in the fall, and then we. But there was a teacher, a voice and debate, a speech and debate teacher, who was very instrumental. He had like forensics, where you go and you have oral delivery or debate or those things. I did that. And then I took a course in my senior year where I was teaching kids with special needs. I taught a girl with severe Downs named Karsha, and I really liked it. And my mom had worked for the United Way of America. We moved to Virginia because my mom was working for the United Way of America, got recruited. And I really liked it. And so I thought I was going to teach kids with special needs. My grades were all over the place in high school because I was a bit of an emotional kid and stuff was going on. And then, so I didn't get into, I applied so half-assed, but I was the president of the drama club and the president of the Thespian Society, so I had done an audition for all the Virginia schools. Like you do this, like the Virginia Theater Conference, the VTAs. And all of the colleges from Virginia would be present, so you could audition for any acting program, BFA, BA program in the state of Virginia at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So I did that as luck be a lady, and I did that, and...
and did you do something else as backup?
I did.
I thought you wanted to be a teacher, though.
I thought I wanted to be a teacher, but my grades were over, and I applied to Cornell. I applied.
Nice.
Did not
Ivy
get in.
League.
Did not get in. And anyway, so April rolled around. I didn't have anywhere to go. And April rolled around, and I didn't want to go to my undergrad, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, where in December I gave the entire School of the Arts graduate commencement speech. And
this year?
Yeah. And went
nice.
back and taught the program. It's amazing what's happened. Anyway, so April rolled around. I hadn't opened the letter from VCU because I didn't think highly of the school at the time. And then April 3rd opened that letter and it said, we saw your piece from a dark at the top of the stairs and we'd love to offer you a spot. And then I was like, well, I got nowhere else to go. So that was a moment of something saying, well, you're going to go here. So I went there, and then that's when I started studying. And I had a great teacher named Gary Hopper, who I'm still friends with, and his wife, Liz Hopper, it was the head of the costume design, and she was an amazing. They were really extremely formative in terms of like taking this. I knew at that moment when I graduated high school that I had to do something, otherwise it was going to be not good. And then I went there and I thought, we'll see. And then I really liked it. I didn't know if I was going to like acting. I have creative people in my family, but nobody had. Did
you have like a moment of like? Did something happen to spark that passion? Was there a role? Was there a?
Well, the first play I did was a play by A.R. Gurney called What I Did Last Summer, which is like the Goy Brighton Beach Memoirs, which I did do Brighton Beach Memoirs like 2 years later in Richmond, and won the Phoebe Award, the coveted Phoebe Award, which was named after the critic's poodle, Phoebe, that I learned later. Anyway, so I went. So I knew when I was doing that play that I really liked it, and there were a lot of shiny people. You know, you're 17, 18 years old when you go to college. I was 17, right? I graduated, so I was 17, and then I turned 18 in my freshman year. And I just worked hard, and I really liked it, and I was good at it, and it was important to me. And the theater, it's like the theater really did. I've said this before, but the theater really did save my life. Not just in that instance, then in other ways. It gave me a direction, a focus. I was good at something. I had a place to use this compassion and this sense of what's important to tell, and then these emotions I was going through. Like it really, it gave me the community of the theater is a pretty unique one. That's why I try to do a play every year if I can. Still, there was a time when I was doing 4 to 5 plays a year, and then I wanted to pay off my graduate student loans from NYU. Congratulations! And so then I was able to start doing more film and television.
So. Did you study a technique? Were you?
I've learned a bunch of different techniques.
So what's worked for you? What?
I think you take from places and use them. So obviously so in undergrad there was it was all about actions, obstacles, which was a Stanislavski based technique with some thoughts. Then there was a guy there who was a graduate student, and he was an older graduate student. He just needed a master's, named CC, who'd gone to like the neighborhood playhouse, so he did like Meisner, which was sort of new when I was an undergrad. I graduated in '92, and so then we started learning a little bit of Meisner, but it was kind of foreign to me. Then I went and I spent.
How was Meisner different? What was foreign?
Meisner's like you repeat, the thing where you say like, you just stare at somebody and you say like, you're wearing a pink shirt, and you say I'm wearing a pink shirt. I say you're wearing a pink shirt. You go back and forth. It's then I spent a year after that. I got into the apprentice program at Actors Theater of Louisville, and which at the time had the preeminent New American Play Festival, the Humana Festival, which they still have, and you still go do there. Anyway, so that was a big deal. After I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I got into this program as an apprentice, unpaid, unhoused, but you take courses and you run the shows, and you're working in a functioning major regional theater for a season. And that theater depends on those. When I was there, it was 16 or 18 of us, and now it's a lot more because basically you're running their shows for free, So that you take in exchange for courses. So at that school, I met Anne Bogart. Anne Bogart at the time, she has a thing called the Viewpoints. It's a technique of acting. It's a physical technique of acting that was created with herself and somebody in the what's it called, ETW in that studio at NYU, and it's about movement-based kinesthetic response.
Oh, that's like the new. Is that the?
And then they also did Suzuki, which was a technique of stomping into the floor, a Japanese thing called Suzuki, and I learned that while I was there, and that blew my mind because it was a very physical way of working. And also, this guy there taught a thing called Practical Aesthetics, which was the Atlantic Theater group with David Mamet, and then Meisner merged into a hybrid of that, where it's a similar thing about. It's also about pragmatism and taking off like emotionality, just trying to go for the communication.
So when you get a role, Jason, now, and I assume it's all organic for you? I mean, do you...
I love doing research, depending on what it is.
Okay.
I mean, depending on, like, if you... There's some things now that you're like,
if you're going to you have this television role on Next.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to... How are you going to...
I started, so, the television show that's about artificial intelligence taking over the world and, you know, the way that it's already involved in everything.
Right.
But for me, the story is, as I currently see it, and I haven't seen any scripts beyond the first one, and I can't really share anything, but it's about two brothers. I mean, it's very much about this artificial intelligence taking over the world, and obviously it's predominantly about John Slattery, and the FBI head who becomes his partner, Fernanda Andrade, and she's amazing and beautiful and incredible. And so it's really them, and then I'm his brother, and she has a team of people and all this stuff.
Right.
So for me, the story is about brothers and sibling rivalry and what happens when siblings go in business together and who leads who at what point. So I was reading stuff about Roy and Walt Disney and made a decision there. I read stuff about the Wright brothers. I read stuff about the Koch brothers. Like, I started reading about successful and unsuccessful business ventures that went into that. And plus, I love watching The Prophet. So I just watched a bunch of the episodes of The Prophet. Do you know what that show is? You don't even know what that show is. It's the best show.
What is it?
The Prophet is a show where this guy, Marcus Lemonis, goes in. They have businesses that are struggling, and he comes in to try to help figure out how to make them. He'll make an investment in the business to help.
So it's like Shark Tank or something?
It's like Shark Tank, but
which I've also never seen.
Shark Tank is amazing, but now it's genuine. Like, it's actually genuine because he's going in, and if it's a family business, and
Shark Tank's not genuine?
Shark Tank is like, now that it's become so successful, and there's articles about, listen, you can go there and you can get a deal and you can change your life for sure. But now people are hip to the way it works in a different way. Anyway, and similarly on The Prophet, is anybody else commenting on The Prophet? No, nobody cares about The Prophet. Hi, Peg. Watch The Prophet. Anyway, I love that show.
Do you know about The Prophet, Pete?
Oh yeah.
You do?
He was naked in it.
No.
Yeah, right. That's my reality show. That, and I'll watch $1 Million Listing every now and then.
$1 Million Listing?
There's a show called $1 Million Listing. It's all about realtors in New York and LA.
Well, we went to a realtor's party. We went to a luau on Saturday night. A realtor who does $1 million deals, and he has an unbelievable home. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. Like, overlooking all of LA. You know, it's gorgeous. Yeah, those people make some serious coin.
They make some serious coin.
Unlike the actors. Okay, so let's get back.
So go back to me.
So you do the undergraduate, and you start to study.
Do the undergraduate. We were going to move to New York.
Wait, do you have a plan B when you're going to be an actor?
I just got a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Okay.
So I had taken a bunch of other courses while I was there, art history and stuff that I cared about. It was really helpful, and a lot of movement and dance, but everything else was required. So I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a backup plan. And my girlfriend and I at the time, and one of my closest friends, Joy Bleecker, we were all going to move to New York. We decided we're going to do it. We're going to move to New York. And then I auditioned.
Right out of undergrad.
Right out of undergrad. Like, we were going to go home to Northern Virginia, make money, and then move to New York.
Well, what were your day jobs?
Well, that summer so then I got into Louisville, which, as I said, was unpaid. Unpaid, unhoused. So I had no money. I had no way to make money.
How did you
I went on food stamps. First, what I did was I worked my tail off. I had like 4 jobs. I worked at a restaurant called Bilbo Baggins. I worked at a place called Marvelous Market, and then this was in D.C., Virginia, and so we had a friend that my parents had a company, and I got a job for the summer because there was somebody was on maternity leave or something, and I worked at a thing called the American Meat Institute, which is a lobbyist for meat, and so I would work there in Roslyn, I think it was, every day, and then I go and I work at the restaurant, and then
So you were just saving all your money.
I just worked my butt off, and I lived at the time. My mom and my former stepfather had. I just lived with them. Mm-hmm. I lived with them, and I just worked.
Sucked your money away, so you were.
And I think I made like $11,000 or something.
Oh wow!
Which,
well, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, especially like 1990 in those jobs. You know what I mean? I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Louisville. I ran out of money. I got some food stamps. I would clean the actors' apartments for some money before they left. I just did it. And then I moved to New York.
Mm-hmm. How'd you move to New York? Where'd you get the money?
How did I move to New York? I really had no money.
Not the cheapest place to live.
Even then. And at that time, when I moved to New York in 1992, and we lived in Astoria, and a lot of people live in Astoria, but when I lived in Astoria then in 1992, it's a Greek community,
right.
And it hadn't, in terms of that kind of gentrification, like that wasn't. And now there's beer gardens and there's Greek communities there, but now everybody lives there. So I lived there for a year and a half, and then did a bunch of plays. I also did a bunch of. I worked at. Oh my God. I would temp. I had a job. I answered phones for the Spirit of New York, those boats that go around. And there's some funny stories there. I worked at the front desk for the New York Hilton and Towers, and I also did like 6 off Broadway plays.
And do you get paid for those? No.
So I just would leave that house in Astoria like at 6 a.m., get home at 1 a.m. I don't know how I did it. I did it because I wanted to do it.
How are you auditioning for plays if you were working during the day?
I didn't audition because basically some of them were graduate school, Columbia grad productions, because I had done this thing where I met Anne Bogart, who is this amazing teacher, thinker. They had students that needed people to be in, like I played Richard II at Columbia University in the cathedral up in the pulpit and doing all this stuff.
I was just around the corner from Columbia.
Yeah. Good housing up there. Anyway, so then I did that, and then I did a play called, the first review I got was this play called Loved Less, The History of Hell. And it was they took direct testimony from 3 cases, the Menendez brothers, the Bobbitt case, and then the case of the Indiana high school girls that killed the other girl, Hope. And the girl, Hope, poured the gas. There was like a lesbian love affair that happened in Indiana, and so they took the transcript, they set it against this thing, and we had to do this like line dancing. It was the whole thing, and I played Eric Menendez.
So now, wow.
Yeah. And then I auditioned on a whim. I didn't believe in grad school. What do you mean you didn't believe in grad school? My undergrad experience, when I was at undergrad, the grad students, though some of them were great, they were great thinkers. Some of them were going to go on to become educators. But in terms of becoming actors at the time, it wasn't. It wasn't a good incentive to go to grad school, basically. So when I went to Louisville, I met all of these other people who'd gone to fancier schools. I didn't know anything about Williamstown, or I didn't know any about that stuff. I just didn't know. And then I started hearing about grad school and Yale and so then I was hustling and I did all these plays, but I didn't have any agency. I didn't have any access, and that was obviously at a time when you really did send your headshot and stuff.
Right.
And I knew that when I went to this Louisville thing, and I now had something more to talk about.
Was that the only regional theater you had done?
Yeah. So I went there. And I didn't have my equity card. I was in like the membership program, and I did. I was in like Born Yesterday and another play, and then I worked on a bunch.
Were you weren't getting reviewed while you were doing these little? No, you're not getting.
No, there were fun people in that class though. Like there was that cast there were 16 of us. I think it was either 16 or 18. It was like 9 men, 9 women, and it's interesting with those people.
Jerry says hi, by the way. Jerry Jewel saying hi.
Oh, hey, Jerry.
Hi, Jerry. Okay.
Geri.
So, I heard about you.
Why didn't we have our own spin-off of Alcatraz? I forget our last name. Tiller. The Tillers. Why didn't we have our
Geri
own
Jewel
spin-off?
was Jason's sister. Yeah.
That was really fun. Anyway.
So you're not making money. You're thinking about grad school.
So I'm not making money. I'm thinking about grad school. I was thinking about grad school first. I didn't think about it from a business perspective. I just thought about it from an acting perspective. When I was doing that Richard II, I thought, I have some skills. I know certain things. But in terms of, especially at that time, I have a certain affinity and respect for language. It's part of the way my reasoning of being an actor and my desire. But when I was playing Richard II, I was like, I didn't get enough. I certainly did not get enough classical training in my undergrad to deal with text like this. So I thought, oh, maybe. And I also didn't know how to get out of the grind. And I could tell my friends that I was living with did not like New York, and they were not going to pursue a career in acting.
I see.
And I met one of my first best friends while I was there, Trey, which is an interesting story. But anyway, so he was working at a high-end restaurant making
Well, tell the
lots of
story.
money. I met Trey. I moved there. Okay. In my undergrad, my first play I did, a friend of mine in undergrad said, you know what, you remind me so much of this guy Trey that I went to high school with in Roanoke, Virginia. Oh, interesting. I don't remember this, but he came to see the play, and I met him, but I didn't remember. Then when I went to Louisville, I met this amazing actress who she doesn't act in the same way anymore, Janice O'Rourke. Janice had gone to JMU, James Madison University, and she said, separate of nothing, oh gosh, you reminded me of my friend Trey, not knowing it was the same Trey.
Right.
Then when I moved to New York, I forget how I met Trey. And then we realized it was the same Trey. So we became best friends, and we were both, some of our friends knew, which I always say, good luck and good for you and go with God. They knew, like, this is not for me. I don't want to pursue this. I don't want to live in New York.
What makes, do you think, Jason, what makes some people decide to go for it? And I'm assuming that you know people that have been very successful and you know people that have not been able to do it.
And I know all kinds of those people, too. Like, there's people who are not necessarily incredibly talented who've done very well.
Okay, so sitting on the outside looking at that, is there anything you can point to say, the people I know who are successful have this in common? Is there anything you can point to?
It's funny. I go through phases about that. I mean, I do think a drive, definitely, like a drive, a certain amount of discipline. At some point, if you don't have discipline, it's a game.
Are you always on time?
Ooh. I'm pretty good. I'm not, those things I'm good at, but the other kinds of discipline, like, you know, like I've never been like particularly interested in like going to the gym. It's not my thing. I love yoga.
Yeah, but
I love spinning.
To get away with it.
But like I had been heavy. I was a fat kid, and then I turned into like a string bean, and then I had like some great lush 20s into 30s where I didn't have to worry about it. And now I'm in my 40s and I have to worry about it.
No, really not.
So anyway, so I would say there's a drive. There is a genuine, for the people that I respect, there's a genuine positive energy about them when you come into contact with them. That doesn't mean they're effusive. It means there's a warmth. I look to different people who are like.
Isn't that interesting?
Like there's a degree of, I feel so much, I'm in this new thing that I started thinking about while I was doing Bernhardt Hamlet on Broadway in the fall about energy. It's not that hokey pokey. It's basically that the world reflects back to you what you give.
I totally believe that.
You know,
I was listening to a Deepak meditation while I was speed walking, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
What I put out is what I get back. So if I'm thinking negatively, if I'm focusing on the black, I'm going to have more.
I've gone through phases. It's easy to think positively when things are going well.
Yes, it is.
And I've gone through phases where, you know, part of my discipline was I'm going to do this. You know, like I'm acting like I'm whipping myself. But part of my discipline was I'm going to do this. And I had friends that just did not, especially growing up in like a suburban town. And I noticed this when I went back and taught, you know, there's a pro to going to school in Richmond, Virginia, and there's a con. Part of the pro is if you're interested and you want to figure it out, you're gonna figure it out, and you're in an environment where you can. I do believe in failure and like try, fail, learn. I really believe in it, especially to be an actor. Like you have to encourage yourself to stretch and fail, and so there is that kind of freedom. But
can you tell us about a failure?
Oh my God!
Just
what kind?
No,
Just
give us one.
We're just talking about acting failures or like life failures because the life failures are like.
Okay, so give me a life failure.
Oh God!
Well, you went there, so now I want to know.
Sometimes I wish I had children by now. Like it's not late. It's not too late. But
it's totally not too late.
It's not too late, but it's late.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so what about a word failure? An acting failure? Oh, come on.
I mean, I've definitely had nights. Of course, I've had nights. I've performed live, where you're like, there is nothing going on, and I've definitely had moments.
Have you had people walk out of the theater?
I've had people walk out, but mostly for at the play I did with Hallie at the Geffen, funny thing happened on the way.
Yes,
people walked out of the theater, but they walked out because they didn't like to hear They didn't like to hear a bad word. They didn't like to see this guy going down on a girl. It was really funny.
We actually saw people walking out when you went down.
But other people were laughing their asses off. Yes, come on. There was a part where I couldn't get close enough, and I pulled over from out of range. It was in the bathroom in a hospital. I pulled over a squatty potty and sat on it. That was the best laugh of the night. So funny.
And I can't believe that I forgot it. And
I love. What does that say about you?
In the complete
What is that, Pete? What is that?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm divorced twice. I've learned to keep my mouth shut.
Wow. I love that you thought.
I know.
You thought I was receiving.
I thought you were receiving.
When it was all about a woman receiving. Wow.
It's really scary that's my memory.
While JoBeth Williams.
Yes.
While JoBeth Williams was in the bed next to us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Anyway.
I wasn't thinking much about her because there was so much going on. We were right in front of you.
They had to add a mirror inside so that House Wright could see what was going on.
Oh, wow.
Anyway. So kindness, positive energy, a discipline, and you have to, I call it being humbly. You have to be humble and hungry.
Ooh, humbly. I like that word. So,
I got another one too, which I really want to patent it. I've been saying it for years. Ignariant, where people are. It works both ways. They're arrogant in their ignorance, and they're like.
Ignariant.
It's like I've never trained, or I've never this. Like I never read this, and I'm not a very well read guy, but I also feel like there's a lot of people who pretend that they have certain skills that haven't put in any effort, and they're just dumb about it. And I have zero.
I like that word.
And then you can also, so it's arrogant about being ignorant, and then you can also work that they're ignorant about how arrogant they are. You can be ignorant. So they're just so arrogant, and they're clueless about it when everybody is sort of stepping away.
Have you sent these into Wikipedia?
Oh no.
Okay, because now here's the thing.
Oh no, everyone's stealing my words.
Because our friend Suzanne Wong coined Jeffervescence about her boyfriend.
Jeffervescence.
And she gave a whole definition. It is in Wikipedia now.
Wow.
So you could send your words.
I want this.
Make the definition. You could send it into Wikipedia. You could get legit. And then it gets credited to you.
I want that.
Yeah, you could do that. And that's a little bit of ignariant.
No, he's not. He's not. That's not ignariant. That's I gotta invent a third word.
Yeah.
You can't have two words. I think you have to invent a third.
No, well, she only had one, but it worked.
Anyway.
So did you have that driving passion? Did you I'm going to do this?
Yeah.
There's nothing else I'm going to do?
Yes.
I'm good at this. I can do this?
I don't know how much I had. I'm good at this.
Okay, I was trying to slip that one in
yeah.
and see if it
I mean, I've had to work really hard. I had to work really hard to think and then when I was like, I am good at. I mean, there was a part when I was like, I'm good.
Okay,
or I was like, I'm fooling them. For a while, I was like, I'm fooling everybody. I'm going to be found out. And then I saw Colleen Dewhurst interviewed in something, and I was like, she said the same thing. And I and I was like, oh, well, okay, I might be okay.
Wolf, Ben Gazzara.
Oof, I love Ben Gazzara.
Yeah, they two, he's gone. But they together were crazy. That was an incredible performance.
I saw Ben, no, Nope.
Okay. Never mind.
But Colleen Dewhurst, I loved her, and then I went and I'll never forget. I got her. Colleen Dewhurst has an autobiography that's very good.
I did read it.
And Tom Viola edited it and made it happen. Tom Viola is the president of Equity.
Mm-hmm.
He was her assistant when
yes,
she was
I
president.
And
The story is, the best thing about the book is different people. Basically, she got an advance in the book.
Okay.
She used the advance to paint the front 3 sides of her house because the front 3 sides look like shit in Connecticut, and I think the neighbors were upset. But she did not paint the 4th side. So she painted the front 3 sides. And then she was so late in doing the book, and she couldn't get it together, and the publishers were like, we want the advance back. And so this is how I've heard the story anyway. And then Tom sat with her and interviewed her, and then they tried to coordinate it. And then I don't know if it was after, because she passed pretty quickly, or basically what they did was she would talk about Maureen Stapleton or whomever, and then they would go and get and interview them, and then get like a feedback about them. Like what was that great actor's name? I'm spacing on his name right now. Anyway, he talks about doing Shakespeare with her, Shakespeare in the Park, and hearing like this. He auditioned. What's his name? Anyway, African American actor. Now he's got to be in his 80s. Incredible voice, and he just heard her laugh in the theater.
Not James Earl Jones.
No, it begins with an R. And he's a great voice. He was a great stage actor, especially with text. Anyway, so he heard her voice. She had like this iconic laugh, and then they became very close friends after that.
So I don't know how we got in cold.
Yeah,
I'm really confused now. So we were talking about knowing when you're good, and
so I knew I could. I knew I had discipline. I knew I had something, and I knew I had a desire to get better.
Okay, so what makes the decision for you to apply to grad school? What happens there?
My friends are moving out of New York. I didn't know what I was going to do to survive. I was also tired from after a year and a half, so I'm in my early 20s. And New York was the first time where I realized I knew as a suburb kid and coming from a small town to change the game, to flip the table from my family history to go to a bigger city and to try to do something different. And I'm the second person to get a degree in my family. So that was a big deal, an undergraduate degree, and the first to get a master's degree. And so I knew we were changing it, but I didn't quite understand inherently the nature of access by money or access to the business or living in a big city. I still take all of that as part of my journey, and I hold it with such pride in terms of small town, suburb, and then living in New York City for 23 years.
And NYU, most expensive school in the world.
I didn't know that at the time. I literally, this is a true story. I was like, somebody said NYU has a good program. I was like, really? I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
And it was too late to audition for Yale. It was too late to audition for Juilliard. I was too intimidated by Juilliard, but I also didn't want to go do a 4-year program. When I left Louisville, a friend of mine was running the Oslo Theater and said, why don't you come down here? And I was like, I don't want to go to grad school. But I went down and looked at the Oslo program, and I decided I didn't want to do that right then, and I went to New York. So it was February or something, and I heard NYU had a good program. I walked into the building. I filled the first application out by hand with a pencil, and I gave a check for the audition, thing, and I could bring my letters of recommendation and my resume and stuff with me to the audition in 2 weeks. And so then I just did it. And I had people, my dad said, please don't do this because of the debt. And my head acting teacher, who is my friend, Gary Hopper, he's like, don't go to grad school. You don't want to go to grad school. And this is all before computers, of course. So I got the letters, and then I auditioned. And I was
what was your audition?
I did the Banished speech from Romeo and Juliet, which I just saw Romeo and Juliet at the All Globe, with Aaron Moten playing Romeo, who's in next with me. That's why I went to go see it.
Fabulous.
And I also did a monologue from a play called Life During Wartime. And then I got called back, and I was like, I'm just going to go, we'll see.
Does it matter about your grades when you're going to grad school at NYU? Were your grades good enough to...
My grades were fine.
They didn't have to be stellar. You didn't have to be like a.
No, I mean even in college. The truth is, even in college, I had all superior marks in all my creative courses in art history and movement and stuff. But like there was and I took like over the summer I did like the earth science requirement and all those things.
Right.
But I failed out of a class because I didn't do a paper. Like I was like a super procrastination guy, and then sometimes it would go great and sometimes it would go bad. So so my grades were fine, and then I got in. And I went to the interview, and they said, "Well, how are you?" Like you had to write income down, and I literally had $250 to my name. And they said, "How are you going to pay for this?" And I said, "I guess I'll have to figure it out." Like I really had no idea.
That was very ballsy.
It was, because when I graduated from there in 1992, is that correct? No, sorry, 1997. In 1997, I got my master's degree, and I had about $70,000 of debt. Now they're graduating like $135,000. And so I paid off all of that graduate school debt like 2 years ago, which was a big deal for me. Everyone was like, it's at like low interest, just put it in retirement. And I was like, I want that debt gone. And then
it's $70,000 a year now, undergraduate.
Well, then also when you get out, and then I started working, and I was doing 5-6 plays a year, but you couldn't really make any money in the theater, and so I was just going further into debt. So I had like a bunch of credit card debt, and I had it. It was important to me. Like it was.
And was it worth it?
I mean, ask me what
day.
Okay. What day? No, it definitely was worth it. I've traveled the world. I've performed in the West End. I've performed on Broadway. I've performed in the middle of the country. I changed the game. Like I value artistry in a very specific way, and right now the butt in the back is about like maybe not following through on some of my own drive in certain ways. I think I'm.
Like, what would you like?
I know this is gonna sound bad, but I know I am a good theater director. Like I just know I am. I know from the notes. I know from the conversations, and I'm angry at myself that I haven't like really pursued that. Just because.
Have you done it at all?
I've done it a little bit, and it went well. It went great, and I love when friends have asked me to come in, and I feel really good about how I toe that line carefully and just try to figure out what question they're asking what question they're asking. And I've seen a lot of theater. I'm very at home in the theater. I drove down to San Diego and saw 2 plays in one day. Go back that night after Romeo and Juliet.
You're making me feel so guilty, Michael Murata. I didn't get down to see your play. Oh God. Yeah.
Are you gonna go see the Steve Martin play, Underpants? The Underpants?
Yeah.
Is it?
I know somebody that was cast in his Broadway.
Oh yeah.
And then got fired. Anyway, yeah.
Oh.
That's another story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel very comfortable there, and I really do love doing film and television, and I'm learning.
Okay, so let's talk about how did that happen for you. So you're doing.
Sure.
So you go and you do your undergraduate. Are you?
I get that.
Are you perform? I mean, you're a graduate. Are you a working actor while that's happening?
No.
Or are you a full-time student?
No. When you're at the grad program is very different from the undergraduate program at NYU. It takes up to 20. We had 17, 10 men, 7 women, and it is very intense. The funny part about it was I had worked like a dog in the apprentice program, so I knew what that was. I knew what Sleepless, and I knew what that drive was. And some people in my program were like, "This is too much," and I was like, "We're paying a lot of money." But it was it's intensive, and you have a whole season of plays. Your first year you don't perform. It's all changed since I graduated. But your first year you didn't perform. You did a Shakespeare play at the end, and then you had like 4 plays each season, 8 plays per class, and you would be divided into 2 groups doing plays. So and then I graduated. I worked in the park in Henry VIII, and then I was able to get an agent, which a lot of my friends didn't. And then so that was the summer, and then I got a job in Macbeth with Alec Baldwin, Angela Bassett, Liev Schreiber, Michael C. Hall.
Wow.
Yeah, so Michael was a classmate ahead of mine, and nobody knew who Michael was, and it was really funny because everyone would, like, Alec and Liev would, like, pull Michael aside and they'd be like, this is what's gonna happen, and they would talk to them.
What a cast that is.
It was pretty incredible.
Wow.
And my friend Adam Danheiser, who stars in Beetlejuice now, he was.
We saw that. Oh. Harry's not here. I'm looking like Harry's there. Yeah,
he's like I don't know the characters. He's a great, funny, hilarious. He's like Leslie Kritzer's. It's him and Leslie Kritzer. Leslie Kritzer was she nominated for a Tony? She wanted to be nominated. She's really funny. She's the one with the red ball. She was very
funny, and I believe she was nominated.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so I think I think he was her counterpart.
She win?
No. I would have been so excited if she won. She's really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Adam was a third year. Michael was a second year when I was a first year in the graduate program. So anyway, they would be preparing Michael for his success. And this was before he did Cabaret, before he replaced Alan Cumming in Cabaret, before he was discovered, did 6 Feet Under, and then his career took off. But they were preparing him.
Hedwig.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so they were preparing him, and then Adam Danheiser would be like... and
why did they pick him out to prepare? They just knew. He had that X Factor thing.
I mean, he's an incredibly attractive guy, an insane voice.
Yeah. Insane voice.
And he's like especially at that time, 19...
Dexter, for those of you who don't know anything else.
And he's like a big guy. Yeah. So they just knew. I mean, but like built. It was like defined.
Okay.
So it made sense.
Mm-hmm. So how do you break into film? How does that happen for you?
It was rough. I was doing all these plays. Soon after that, I went and did The Beauty Queen of Linney in Seattle. And while I was there, Garrett Dillahunt, who's a friend of mine, he's an actor. He's on Deadwood. You'd recognize him. He's married to Michelle Hurd, great actress. She's on the new Star Trek thing with, Patrick and Patrick Stewart. Mm-hmm. So I did Long Day's Journey Tonight. Garrett had to pull out. I did Long Day's Journey Tonight at ACT, began a relationship with ACT. Next year, they asked me, I premiered this play called The Invention of Love that nobody wanted to do.
San Francisco. Yeah.
In San Francisco, I did it, and nobody was going to do that play. Carrie Perloff did it first, and it was James Cromwell and myself as the elder and younger. Mm-hmm. And then they did the play on Broadway with Robert Sean Leonard, different production, different director, different everything, Robert Sean Leonard and Richard Easton. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I started doing these big premieres. I was doing a lot of off-Broadway plays, especially English premieres, Irish plays. I was always in an English or Irish accent. And
speaking of Irish, our friend Peg just says that she wants to see you do something with Dennis Leary because you look so much alike.
Oh, so and Mary Navaria is watching too.
Yes.
Hi Mary.
Hi Mary.
So anyway, so I forgot how I got. Oh yeah, I started working with a manager, which wasn't as common at the time.
Oh really?
And I got like a Law and Order.
From the manager, not the agent.
No, I left the agency.
Agents don't get you work. Agents just make
It's actually a really interesting story. I was at a certain agency, and my main point person had left. She decided she didn't want to do it anymore. I was at the agency there was a guy there, and I had just done the premiere of this Tom Stoppard play where everyone was talking like, who is this guy, and things were happening. Uh-huh. And when I came back, I kept saying, I've never done any television. I really want to do television. And so it's very different now. It's funny how
so this is like early
90,
2000?
It's like 2000 about.
Yeah.
And so they got me an audition for like a 3-line part on Law and Order. And I was like, I had never said no. I was afraid to say no. But
Law and Order is like every actor in New York has done Law and Order,
basically.
Right? That's like the thing.
Yeah.
They
I've done 4 of them.
Have you?
Yeah. So anyway, so I got this audition. Mm-hmm. It was for a Tiffany's clerk, and he was clearly like very gay and colorful and flamboyant and stuff. And I didn't want to audition for it. And I said, to this agent, I was like, listen, there's guys who can do that really well. I can do it. But at the time, I was concerned about sending that message out there about myself, that was me. Also, I was like, it's 3 lines. And once you do 3 lines, you can't be on that Law and Order for 7 years. So something like that. That was the deal back then.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But the agent said to me, your expectations are unrealistic. When I said I didn't want to audition for a 3-line part on Law and Order. And so I was already like, this doesn't seem like it's going well. And so then that was a moment where I stepped up and I just said, I don't think this is a good relationship. I 65.
Good for you.
And I had been wanting to meet managers. I met my manager that I am still with to this day.
Nice.
He's a very different guy than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like people would always be like, "What?" He's like, he's very funny. He's gonna get married. Very funny, like New York raised Jewish guy who like he loves to like it's all his dad was a public defender, so there's a sense of justice in him, and he's also like, he's one of those dudes who like they all love Goodfellas and they quote The Godfather, and I was like, maybe I need this. And really what he did was he was trying to make a business for himself. He submitted me unbeknownst to me for a 3-scene part on Law & Order, which I was like, I guess I'll go audition. And then I auditioned and I got it, and I was like, well, this is
nice.
So I've been with him since. So I did that, and then I did I made my Broadway debut in another Tom Stoppard play called The Coast of Utopia.
Okay, so what's that like for you to get your first Broadway role?
It was amazing. I had come out to LA to visit, and I got this audition, and I had seen, it's a 3-part play, it's 12 hours, it's a trilogy.
Wow.
And I had seen 2 of the 3 plays in London when I went, and I was like, this is going to come to America, and I'm going to be, if there's a part that I could play, it's this part, but the part I want to play is that part. And so they had called to say they were interested in auditioning me. I was in LA visiting and trying to see about living here. And I was like, I don't want
Were they auditioning you for this part or that part?
They were auditioning me for the part that I knew they were going to.
For this part, yeah.
Billy Crudup played the part I wanted to play, and he got a Tony for it. It was a great part. Belinsky, it was a great part. Anyway, so and my part was good. I played Ivan Turgenev, and part of the fun of playing Turgenev was a bunch of people played different parts in different plays. I played the same man in age from like 18 to 65, so that part was really fun. But Turgenev was a real observer, and Tom, and was in some ways he was a pseudo Tom Stoppard in the script in a way. You know how playwrights write themselves, and they think sometimes playwrights think they're writing themselves here, but they're really writing themselves over there. So he just was like an observer, and so I was there a lot. It was great. It was the best. There were 45 actors, and Lincoln Center.
Wow.
Lincoln Center made it. Lincoln Center did something so amazing with that play, which was, besides the fact that it was a 12-hour play and creating an event of theater and casting 45 actors in a play, they made it. They basically said to the producing world of New York, you can do it, and for you to say you can't is wrong. Like, after that, there were a bunch of more event kind of theater things that would happen, and they did other trilogies,
That's before
so
Angels
much
in America, obviously.
It was after Angels.
It's after Angels.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like 45 actors. When we would do the 12-hour days, when we would do, the audiences would come at 11, see the first play, go to lunch, see the second play, come back, go to dinner, see the third play.
They'd see them all in one day?
Yeah. And you do the whole play, and when
I
you came out,
can't even imagine that.
There was a special curtain call for that. And it was just, you would just be sobbing, because like you all had been through this experience for 12 hours.
I can't believe that an audience would.
It was amazing. About the Russian, about the Decembrists, and like Herzen, and like a bunch of Russian history that people don't know.
What kind of people were in the audience?
I mean, Tom has a lot of smart people, a lot of people pretending to be smart. They don't get it. You're like, okay, you're so smart.
Are there people sleeping in the audience?
Of course. And this was also, cell phones weren't going off yet, because that was. Oh no, sorry, yes they were. Not as bad though. But I'll never forget when Bill and Hillary came. Anyway, so I did that play. And Turgenev, and I had played The Glass Menagerie with Sally Field the first time she did it at the Kennedy Center.
Okay, so now what's that like? That
was heaven. That was like one of the that is an experience that was one of the most important experiences in the theater in my life. Like that's one of them. It was Sally Field, Jenny Dundas, who was the original Thomasina in Arcadia, Tom Stoppard play on Broadway, and then it was a guy, Corey Brill, who lives here, and it was at the Kennedy Center. I had been an usher at the Kennedy Center when I was 17 years old, ushering for Lily Tomlin's Search for Signs, and all the lesbians were like, "You should come with us." And I was like, "Why?" and I went to undergrad instead, and then it was great. And then there were reviews that were like, "This, if this doesn't come to Broadway, it's a problem." But our production didn't have the rights. Jessica Lange and Sarah Paulson had the rights, and Sarah and I weren't friends yet.
Okay, now Sarah,
we're going everywhere.
I go to your IMDb, not your IMDb. I googled
Instagram.
you and went to images.
Oh yeah.
And you and Sarah Paulson.
Yeah.
Are everywhere all the time for years.
Yeah,
What is
very
that?
lucky.
What is that?
This is the most amazing friend. I met her doing the Cherry Orchard at the Taper in like 2005 or 6. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think I had just finished that when they wanted me to audition for Coast of Utopia, and I was like, I don't want to do that, and then I did, and I got it anyway. So then we became friends, and she's one of my closest friends. She's a very special human being. Obviously, she's gifted and she's hilarious and talented and so funny that I just want her to do more comedy. I was just texting her. I was like, "How do
more comedy? I like that."
She's really one of the funniest people.
By the way, was in the living room.
Oh, really?
Holland did Women Who Write. Yes,
Holland is also very funny.
Yes, she is very funny.
So I've known Sarah for like a long time since then, and she's really and then Pedro Pascal, who was her friend Pedro, who was on Game of Thrones and Narcos and stuff. And then we were friends through Sarah.
Chris Broncato created Narcos.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
He has a new show, something of Harlem, that's debuting in like a week or two.
Oh,
yeah.
So sorry, just to bring us. So after we did Coast of Utopia, which was about 10 months, and I was playing this Turgenev. I play a lot of writers, a lot of thinkers, contemplative, emotional. There's frequently a degree of melancholy. There's a degree of effete, tortured emotionality. And I was like, why? I'm never dangerous. I'm tired of never getting to be dangerous.
Oh God, you're always dangerous.
No, I hadn't been yet.
Yeah.
And then I auditioned for that. And the end of the summer, I auditioned for The Changeling with Clint Eastwood's movie with Angelina Jolie, where I played Gordon Northcott, who was a serial killer. And that was the first. I was like, "This is so exciting! I'm gonna be dangerous." So
how and then did you do something different in that audition to get that role?
No. The power of that is that Clint literally looks at your audition tape, will call you back, and then cast you. Like it's not. There isn't a lot of mishigas and a lot of like the studios just are like, okay, go do what you want. So I got to be this crazy bad guy, and I was really excited, and it was really fun. And
was
I got
Clint
it.
Good to work with?
Really fun. I mean, he was the first. I had done an independent film, but he was the first. It was the first feature film I did, and of course, it set the bar in how things can be done, how communication can happen, how you can work a 9-to-5 day, what kind of
director is he? Is he? How
you
much
get like
freedom?
2 takes.
You get what?
Like 2 takes.
You get 2 takes. Very professional. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, he's also he's been doing it forever. He hires departments. He hires good captains. He trusts the captains to do their job.
Nice.
Like he trusts each of the departments to do their job.
So
he's worked with them for years. No.
How about it with actors?
He's really great. Like I love that it's a quiet set, but it's a fun set. It's quiet. He'll just say there's no action or cut because
really,
yeah, because he was when he was especially when he was filming, it was around horses, so they didn't want to spook the horses, so they would just start. So he just says let's say some of this shit, and then you just do it. And then every now and then I'd say, what do you think about? And he would offer a small thought, but mostly
he just left you to your own. Really.
There's some things I did in that movie that I'm so proud of when I look at it, and there's some things I think
I have to go watch that.
I would never do that again right now.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I have to watch it. Is it on Netflix?
It's a really good movie. I'm sure it is. It's a really good movie, and Angelina Jolie is great in it. Michael Kelly, it helped really launch Michael's. I mean, Michael had a pretty good career, but that really pushed him up. Michael was the detective. So anyway, after I played the serial killer, he's not a pedophile in that we don't know that he committed horrible acts with them, but he did kidnap little boys and kill them and soak their bones and lie. But so that was the first time.
Spoiler alert!
That was the first time I played a bad guy, and then that was the thing. And there were people who said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I get to do this amazing role." Like it was there. I was on Oscar shortlists for until
wow.
And then and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, but that's pretty cool.
It was amazing because my another very close friend, Amy Ryan, had been nominated the year prior for Gone Baby Gone, and I had watched her process of she's the one getting attention in this movie, and so then we were like, is this happening? So anyway, then after that, I just kept getting
bad guys.
Yeah, and I mean the number of rapists and murderers and things that I've just been I can't. Nope.
So what was the first series job that you got?
First series regular job was Alcatraz, which was a Bad
Jerry.
Robot series.
Uh-huh.
With, no, Alcatraz. Oh wait,
Yeah,
Alcatraz. Sorry,
yeah.
I forgot for the flashback.
So now, what's that like? That you've got a gig and you're on TV?
So fun, because also I wasn't worrying about money. I mean, I wasn't getting paid that much in terms of the world of television, but for me, come from the theater world, and I was living in Vancouver, which was amazing. I love Vancouver. I love the food. I'm a bit of a foodie. I love the food there. Sam Neill was the head.
What's
he was
the food
heaven.
like in Vancouver? I've never been, but what's
so
special about the food in Vancouver?
Oh, it's such a great hybrid of. There's a lot of, Eastern culture there. There's delicious. It's great.
Ooh, good to know.
It's so good. It was really fun, and the community, the culture is very active. So it's raining or cold, and people are on paddle boards. People are biking. People are climbing. I would do the grouse grind, this climb. I went bungee jumping. I loved it.
Wow.
I loved it. And we shot the pilot for Next there also. And I love that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but we're not.
But no, now you have to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Hi, Rick. Chicago's my kind of town. So what was the most? What's been the most fun thing? The most
Work-wise?
Yeah.
Ooh. I mean, Ozark was very special.
Okay.
Ozark was special. I had done
working with Jason.
I had done a movie that he directed called The Family Fang with him, where I played the young Chris Walken and Catherine Hahn. And
Young Chris Walken?
We were in the flashbacks with the little kids. We started it. Catherine Hahn and I, who had been a dresser for me when I was at Yale and she was at Yale. And anyway,
when were you at Yale?
No, I did plays. Sorry, I did plays at Yale in the rep. And she was a student, and she was my dresser, and I was like, "You are the worst dresser, but you're the best. You're the best to be around." Anyway, so I met Jason, really loved him. It was about a week of flashbacks in this indie where he and Nicole Kidman. It's based on the book called The Family Fang. It was really good. He did an incredible job with the movie. He's so good as a director.
I love him.
And then I was doing The Crucible on Broadway, the most recent production, Ivo van Hove, very different, and. I got an audition.
Wait, what were you in The Crucible?
I played Paris.
Ooh.
Yeah. But in Evo's world, that was like Saoirse Ronan. Ben Whishaw was Proctor, which is a very different take. And Sophie Okonedo was Elizabeth Proctor, which is obviously very different. And it was before Saoirse did Lady Bird. But anyway, so it was very different. There was a lot of movement. There was a wolf that walked around on the set. Anyway, so it was beautiful. It opened with me holding this girl, Elizabeth Teeter, in my arms, just like sobbing. So he would go on to be one of the, bad white men, but it was able to tell a story about why he started lying in a way that you don't always see. Anyway, so, and then I auditioned, and for this part, a lot of times these Fed guys will come my way and they say, no, we want brains or we want sophistication, but really they want like brawn and like chiseled jaw, and you're like, okay. It's like the number of times that I've only played Jewish guys on stage. I've never played a Jewish guy in film.
Jewish? Oh, come on. How do you get away with being a Jewish guy? What were you a Jewish guy in?
I did the premiere of this, but Rinna Groff, who's Jewish, she'll cast me as a Jew all the time. We did even, this is horrible, we curled my hair. I played Eugene Morris Jerome and won the Phoebe Award. My boyfriend's Jewish. My stepdad's Jewish. I lived in New York City for 23 years. There's some things I know, some things I don't.
Well, I can see the attitude, but the physicalization is just...
Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, on Ozark, then I got the part. And Jason is a truly exceptional person. And I knew Laura Linney casually from the theater scene, and now Laura and I are very close because...
Didn't you?
We lived together, yeah. My housing situation the first year was a bust, and she's like... I ended up moving in with her, and then it was really fun. Mm-hmm. And then the second year we did it, and now I forget who's living there now with her. But
somebody I know. Felix Solis is on Ozark this year.
Oh,
yeah, he played the living room.
Oh,
he's an extraordinary actor.
Wow.
I saw him in the Pulitzer Prize. Oh God, what's it called? Oh, and he did the monologue from the play here.
Ooh. Wow.
And it's the most the cost of living.
Oh yeah, that's a good play.
He did the opening monologue here. It gives me goosebumps. I saw him do it in the theater. Candy Clark and I went, and everybody in the theater thought he was doing it right to them.
Wow.
And I asked him if he'd do it in the living room, and he did. And it was...
Wow.
It's like a 15-minute monologue, 15-minute monologue. And it is just... He is extraordinary.
Wow.
And so he had just gotten Ozark right after he did that. I said, "Are you going to be with my friend?" No, but you weren't doing it anymore. Yeah,
dead.
You're gone.
But Ozark was great because Jason. He's a great leader, and he's been doing this for so long. He just knows. He knows. It's the way I feel about the theater in a way where I know what everyone's job is in the theater, and it's a team effort, and I know how to slide in and do my part, and also tell you like how my part is not being helped. And Jason just knows. I don't know those as well as Jason does. I do. I know them a lot better now because of 2 seasons on Ozark, and because I shadowed Jason.
I was going to say that because like Peter Page was telling us 2 weeks ago that the way he became a director and stuff was because Peter, as soon as he was acting, he was shadowing.
I shadowed 4 episodes of Ozark actually, and it was great, and I loved it. Peter, just to bring it around, so Trey Elliott.
There we go.
So Trey met Peter when Trey moved to LA. My best friend Trey. I finished my graduate degree, started doing plays, and then my friend Trey submitted a cassette of himself singing 9 songs and got cast as like Mark in Rent in like the first tour or the second tour, and then he did it on Broadway for a year and a half. So our trajectories went that way in terms of career, and at one point we were both in San Francisco. I was doing Long Day's Journey Into Night, and he was doing Rent in San Francisco. Anyway, so Trey knew Peter somehow when he moved to LA. I met Peter when I came to LA one time visiting him, and I was like, very like, oh, this is the West Coast friend. But Peter and I are very similar. Like, it's really funny. We've come to know each other in ways where we have very similar stories.
Interesting.
And parents and stuff.
We talked about Peter's parents. We haven't talked about yours.
So I have my parents. They're all still alive, thank goodness. My mom. I don't know. What can I tell you? My parents divorced when I was young.
Did your parents support what you were doing?
Oh yeah, they did. They kind of held their breath because it was a really big deal for my parents for me to pursue something I was passionate about. And at that point in our American culture, so we're talking, I graduated high school in '88. It was still a big deal for your parents. It was new for your parents to say, I want you to be happy. I want you to do something you're passionate about.
Yes.
And I want you to get, when my dad was the first to go to college, he wanted to get a degree in like interior design or something.
And
but
what did he?
He got a degree in sociology because obviously his parents were like, my family's like working class. It's like, my family are like teachers. All my cousins are teachers, plumbers, carpenters, workers, military.
And what did your father do?
When we moved to Virginia, we moved for my mom's job for United Way of America, not his job. And my mom didn't have a college degree. She just was smart as fuck. And worked hard. And so my dad got a part in the government. He worked for the FEMA. And then my mom stayed at United Way, had an affair, got married to that man, my first stepfather, so they divorced when I was young, and then my dad got custody of my brother and I, which was a big deal in the 70s, and he raised us, and then what? And then my stepfather passed away in 2001, and then my mom remarried, and then my dad was married a second time, and now he's been with the same person for like 24 years in Delaware.
And they've gotten to see you be successful. And I imagine there's a lot of pride about that.
There's tremendous pride. It's nice. There's like phases of it, There's phases of...
Do they worry about you still?
Yeah, I think they worry about it because I complain because they're my parents. Like I say, I don't know what's going to happen. Or then, there'll be like a flash of self-righteousness when they'll... my dad's very worried about money and economics and stuff. And it used to be when I was younger, I was like, you have to just... I'm in a very different career. We have to table it. Now that I'm getting older, it's like, wait, what's a retirement account? I should probably do something. They're very, very supportive. There's a lot of... The only thing with my parents now is sometimes there's a lot of, what's it called with history? What's it called? Reinventive history. They're like, I went to every play. I mean, they've seen some stinkers, believe me. They saw me... I did this musical called Ripped, a rock mythical based on Rip Van Winkle in college, where I had to be a frog, I had to be a horse with a 3-foot dick. It was about like I had to like you would be morphed into these things, and they've seen some real bad ones. They've seen some. I did this beautiful, beautiful play called Orange Flower Water by Craig Wright, small theater in New York. It was also one of the most special experiences about two couples, affair, divorce. But the audience was there, and all four actors, Paul Sparks, Pam Gray, and Aria Barrikas, and I would be on stage the whole time, and the audience would be around us. And there was a very intimate. I'm feeding right into something.
Oh, here he's going.
There's a very intimate sex scene.
There's a sex scene.
There's like a 20-minute sex scene, but like the audience is literally like at the edge of the table. Like it's very intimate. And I was naked. Pam had a shirt on, but it was a very legitimately beautiful scene where a couple is based. She says like, if you're gonna leave me, we're gonna have sex one more time. And so they start having sex, and they start talking about the kids. It's like a long scene, and then they finish, and then you think they're going to get back together, but then he says, "Okay, well, I'll tell the kids in the morning." And it's devastating. But my mom came to see that, and that was a lot.
Oh, did you ever see scenes from a marriage? What you were describing?
Yeah,
it feels like that, right?
Yeah,
it sounds a little.
I love that movie. And then Ivo Van Hove, who I worked with, that director, he did a Scenes from a Marriage where he had 3 separate rooms running concurrently, and you would go to each room, and there were 3 sets of the couple, and then he opened up all the walls, and all 3 would move around doing these scenes.
Wow.
It was fascinating.
Wow.
Great actors. It was really cool.
Wow. And how about comedy?
I love it. I've done a lot of comedy on stage.
Okay, because I've never seen you do comedy.
No,
really.
I know. That's like that's my thing. Like,
is it?
My thing is...
See, I can't even imagine you doing comedy.
No, you have to see it. I mean, there was... Obviously, Hallie's play had a lot of humor in it.
It did.
That was like a stretch. I played a Jew in that. That was a stretch. Like, somebody wasn't... Brett Gelman wasn't famous enough yet, or wasn't available, because that was like a perfect Brett Gelman part. But anyway... so I love comedy, and in terms of on screen, I haven't had that chance.
Do you audition?
Yes, I do, and I have to keep really
because they can't see you.
They don't. My voice is different than the guy on Ozarks because he was different, and people. I just did this independent movie in Texas, in Terlingua, Texas, past like 2 hours past Marfa, and great thing. And I could see some of those crew members. People just think you're that person. You know, some people, if you're like, I like to shapeshift a bit. So people can't see it, but that's all I want. Like, all I want is a comedy. I have so many friends.
So what is your idea? Like, if you could,
I like a merge. I like a hybrid of
like what? Like what would be a dream role that somebody else has played that you would covet?
Hold on, I gotta come up with something. I mean, the tone, like the first round, when the tone of 6 Feet Under came around, and it was like a mix where it was drama, but there was humor moments. And then when they were more broad, like if I could be on The Other Two, I love that show.
I don't know that show.
It's Broad City, of course. I love Broad City. No. Here's the definitive. But here's the definitive from the jump, not from recent. Okay. If I could have been in Fleabag season 1, if I could be in Fleabag, if I could have been Andrew Scott, who is the priest in season 2, and done. That's it. That's exactly where it's humor, it's wit, it's like wry, it's precision, it's a look. That is my wheelhouse. That's my joy.
Wow.
That's what I want.
Fleabag.
I loved it. Like when I saw Fleabag, I watched the first season twice because I love direct address in the theater, and rarely do I think direct address works on film. And she just exploded it, and I was like, I was like, this is how it can work. It doesn't need. It doesn't need Kevin Spacey talking to which was fine, and he's of course a talented actor, blah blah blah. But the way she does it, it's just so real, and then it's like little look, like something horrible is happening, and the mother says something terrible, and she's just like, it's my favorite. Yeah. And The Other Two is about the two. They're siblings, and the young one makes a video, and he becomes like a Justin Bieber, but he has no talent. And the 2 elder ones whose lives are falling apart. Are following him to all these events as his career goes up, and one of them is an aspiring actor. That guy is funny. I forget his name.
What is it called?
Funny. The Other Two.
The Other Two.
Yeah, it's like Comedy Central. It would follow. I don't know if it would follow Broad City, but and they're amazing. Vicki Abby and they're so good. I love Broad City so much.
I haven't seen that either.
What is wrong with you?
No. Have you seen Broad City?
Nope.
No. Pete, we got Pete. I don't know. I don't think there are questions. I think everybody's just kind of just with us. Hi.
So that's what I want comedy. I really want comedy.
All right. So we haven't talked about your personal life at all. So you've.
So I've been in a relationship now for a long time. I date a writer.
So when did you come out? When did you do that?
I mean, I knew when I went to college. I had girlfriends, and I was
having
sex.
You had a girlfriend.
Yeah. And
okay.
Listen, I'm gay, but when I was growing up, the idea of fluidity, it's a part of me. It's in my family. It's also I'm a very fluid guy. I wasn't.
There wasn't the word fluid then.
Yeah. I believe it was all. We'd always talk about the Kinsey scale. You know what I mean? That's what we would sort of joke, and people are like, "What is that? You're either this or you're that." And so I just was open. It took some courage. When I went to college, I said, I'm confused about my sexuality, and my parents were like, and then but they were fine.
How did that go? Oh, okay.
It took time. It was nowhere near the stories that horror stories that we hear. It took a little bit of time.
And how long is the relationship?
They were very okay and accepting. They never said anything negative. I think when I started dating somebody and brought him home, it was a moment. Where I was.
And how long have you been in your current relationship?
In my culture, a lifetime. 8 years.
And so how are your parents with Mickey?
They love him.
Okay.
They love him. They're afraid of him.
They're
a little bit because he's really blunt. But my dad's gay also. So my dad had 2 marriages to women, and then now he's been with the same guy.
This is a whole other part of the story.
Now he's been together with the same guy for 20 years.
Well, how could your father have judgment with you if
people I think there's internalized homophobia is a big thing, let alone parental things where you want there's things where your parents. I think there's I've talked about these things with my dad where your parents are living vicariously through you, and there's different perceptions about that at different times, and that's not all a bad thing for your parents to be proud of you and seeing themselves. It has moments if you think that it's your success, and it is a compliment to a parent to their success, but it's also not your success, And so similarly with my dad, there's just I think he took him a while. When I went to undergrad, and then in my freshman year, something happened where I asked him about it, and he said, "I'm not sure," and I said, "Okay." But they've been together for a long time. Also, at first there was some freedom, and his partner had raised his son. Also, had been married to a woman.
Was your father with a woman or with a man when you and your brother went to live with him?
He was by himself. And then he married. And then he was dating. Then he became the ladies' man of the '70s of our housing community because he just was free. And then he was having sex with everybody. There were a lot of ladies. And then he married one. He married this woman when I was in the 6th grade, and that was not to last long. And then I moved in with my mom and my stepfather, who I was the youngest by far of all. There were 5 sons between their 2 marriages. I have 1 brother, and I was the youngest by far. And then I lived with them through my high school years. So
I have 2 more questions for you. So my first question is there this show is geared mostly to inspire and motivate people and to give sort of an insight into how artists merge creativity and commerce. What has been the successful. Because a lot of people are still trying to do it. Yeah.
The hard thing about that is that the whole structure, it was antiquated when I started, and obviously I've been making a living as an actor, qualified definitions of living, but being paid to act for over 20 years.
Okay, so now, so let's say we're talking to my daughter. We're talking to Samantha, who just
But
got
it's
out
so
of
different
NYU.
now. But the whole construct is different now because anybody can be a star in a second. Anybody with phones and recordings, there's just so much content and so much fodder.
You were showing me something that went viral earlier.
Yes.
It's such horrible
and also your daughter is savvy to the fact that is a thing. Like the contests of like Star Search was on when I was a kid.
I just saw Sam Harris's.
Yeah, but it's not the same as American Idol or The Voice or any of these things. It's a different thing. So people, if you're starting now and you're younger, it's a very different world. I think the hard part is, I was reading an article today actually that a friend that said, whatever, was talking about having, I think you definitely have to be doing multiple things at the same time. When I started, they're like, no, you really need to focus on just this kind of actor. I did a lot of Shakespeare. When you go to grad school, you come out, and especially if you're a tall white guy, at the time, you would do a lot of Shakespeare. So I did a lot of Shakespeare, and then I was like, I gotta stop doing Shakespeare because people think like I only do Shakespeare. And I like Shakespeare, but I would like to do a new play.
Right.
And then I did some comedies and English plays, and like, oh, he only does English plays, and I'm like, no, I can do. So it's always like kind of doing it. And then ultimately now more than ever, people really are doing things at the same time, creating things.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
So I don't know where her skills are or her passions are, but I think if she comes from this household, she knows about a spectrum of a bevy of talent, and I'm sure she knows about creating your own material and owning your own material.
Okay, so
that's the thing that I would say is like, own your own shit. Create. If Hal Holbrook toured Mark Twain for 30 years of his life, or everybody had different things that people have to do to. It's a challenge to figure out how to feed yourself, and how feeding your artistry can sometimes turn into the way that you're then feeding yourself. So
that's my next question. Have you worked on creating a vehicle for yourself to have that comedy?
I haven't. That's the thing. That
Why not, Jason?
I've done stuff helping things for other people.
Yes.
And like I have an idea for a movie for Sarah. I have an idea for a movie for Amy. But I don't do it for myself. Like it's easier for me to say like, oh,
did you write it all?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you could
I don't know why I don't. I'm not even the kind of actor who sometimes I have certain Shakespeare roles like, oh, I'd like to play that, I'd like to play that. But I don't have, how some actors, they have like, I want to do this, this, this. When I first came out, I was like, I want to be in Master Harold and the Boys. I got too old to do that. I want to play Romeo. I want to play Hamlet. I did all of those things. But now I don't know what they are. So I look to actors who are a little bit older than me, like John Glover. I did a play with him where I played the younger version of him, where I would start to ask him roles that he played at certain years of his life. This great English actor, Peter Eyre, I call him Hamlet, and I'll just call him up and I'll say, Hamlet, what did you do when you turned 50? And I'm trying to come up with plays that I want to do. But I don't have...
But how about that TV thing? That comedy TV thing that you're coveting, that you'd like
I think I have two stories, and I went for the first time and did a general where it turned into a slight pitch with a certain producer, comedy company producer. I didn't realize it was a pitch, and I was like, oh, I'm pitching. And then I realized how good one of the stories was that's true to my life, and I just haven't. I need to make it a story. I need to do it. I need to make it.
You need to do it. Okay, good.
Yay, a question.
Pete, curious as to what Jason will be doing in Chicago.
The show, it's a new show called Next. It'll come out in the spring. Next on Fox with John Slattery about artificial intelligence taking over the world.
Rick obviously came and went and had a life.
But where should I live? I have to find a place to live.
All right, so Rick, Jason
where do I live?
Needs living suggestions and probably some good foodie suggestions.
Yeah.
Do you have good foodie places in Chicago?
I have a couple because I have befriended some people who are publicists for restaurants, and so they're like, they sent me a list. And God knows there's such great theater in Chicago. That part will be fun.
And the music, there's great.
And
music.
Since it's an ensemble show, I'll have time off, so I can actually go to the theater. So I'm excited.
Nice. Is there great theater in Chicago?
Oh.
Yeah.
People are going to Chicago now as opposed to New York.
Is that so?
Because there's the Guthrie, there's the Steppenwolf. There's also, it's a community of a bunch of small theater companies that all perform in different venues now. Like there's so many. Like I did this production of Our Town. I replaced as the stage manager for David Cromer, who directed it and started it, and it ran for like a year and a half in New York. But there's like tons of theater companies there. Yeah, I've never done a play there. I got asked to play a Shakespeare part, and I couldn't because I got Bernhardt Hamlet, and I did that instead.
That was a pretty good choice.
I thought so too.
Yeah, starring on Broadway doesn't stink at all.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and I got to see it.
You saw like the first preview.
I saw the first preview.
It was a little rough.
No, but you were wonderful.
beautiful.
You were wonderful. It was fabulous. Well, Jason, thank you so. I'm so glad we finally got to do this. Pete, we haven't talked to you like this whole show. Pete, you have anything to talk to us about?
Pete, what happened on your way here?
What's going on, Pete?
I'm coming over there.
Yeah, come over here.
Come around.
Yeah, so come on in.
What do you want to talk about?
Have a piece of
So,
watermelon.
Pete, what, you got? Is work happening? What's happening, Pete? You're not allowed to leave on a Wednesday.
So I'm leaving in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
You are. Where are you going?
Let's see, San Francisco for a night doing a show, and then I fly to Cleveland, and I go to Detroit for 4 nights and do 5 shows, I think.
Wow.
Pete is the rock and roll comedian. He plays electric guitar and
half my stand-up, so I do this history of rock, but it's comedy.
But it's comedy.
And I can do like Eruption, like Van Halen, but I make it funny.
Wow.
I do it naked. Isn't that weird?
No.
Go figure.
But you're holding your guitar, so
that's right.
That's
a well-placed guitar.
Tuning my G-string. Anyway,
Hey!
Thank you. Anyways, that's what I'm up to right now.
Well, that's really good, Pete. Well, I'm sorry. You've been very quiet. You've just been like listening and just been quiet. You're focusing.
He's focusing on
I
questions.
like a lot for everybody so that you know that, like, I'm acknowledging that you're here.
So we didn't acknowledge anybody. So
Phil Isaacson.
Michael, hi Phil. Pamela Cameron's watching. Scott Krantz, I know him from New York from a million years ago. Tony, Karen, hi Karen, hi John Green, Patrick Reese, hi. These are show. Hi Carol. Oh, something's going on. What's going on? Jason was great. Oh, Rick, that's Rick. That's your Chicago friend. Your new Chicago friend. So yeah.
There it is. He is nothing to sneeze at.
No, you didn't.
I will be using
No, you didn't. So anyway, so next week, I'm trying to remember. Oh, here, let me tell you who's going to be on with us next week, because I can't remember, Pete. And maybe I can even see.
Who's coming on next week?
Jay Kogan. Jay, Modern Family. We're gonna be laughing.
Yeah.
You know, he has a lot to do with the comedy. Jay Kogan. He's a writer on Modern Family. He would not be a bad person for you to know. Modern Family is a funny show.
It is very funny.
And they like the gays.
My friend Casey Mahaffey is a great... So funny.
So, you just never know what can happen. Actually, when we went and we interviewed Burt Young, and the next day I got a call from Eliza Roberts, and Burt got a part in an independent feature the next day.
That's amazing.
So you never know what can happen from this, Jason.
Listen.
You might end up getting a job in craft services.
No,
I might.
No, you could be.
You
could be making us laugh any day. We just don't know. We don't know who could be
What's
watching.
going to happen?
What's going to happen? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Pete.
I have to get the camera.
So you have to get the camera. So we'll see you all next Wednesday. And by the way, if you haven't watched, yesterday Lainey Kazan was in the living room with James Morrison and Peter Onorati, and it was the most exceptional show. It's on my Facebook. Please check it out. They were amazing. Thanks a lot. Take care.